we kind of can't start anywhere else again other than with the circus that's Man United and the comments today from the manager about the situation with Sancho. First of all, what he has said is that strict lines is what the club asked me for because there was no good culture before last season. It is important to set good standards. It is what I did, and it is my job to control the standards. The team is above everything. When asked specifically about Sancho, he declined to answer directly on Sancho, but he did say it is never someone makes one mistake. It is a whole process before you come to certain outcomes about strict lines. There is a structure to cross a line, so you have to be strong. So essentially, for me, saying this isn't the first time Jadon Sancho has not met the standard in training or not been on time to training. That is why it's led to this situation. He hasn't been drawn out into the conversations about inconsistencies. Sancho, as we know, has dropped from the first team now. He's been suspended from first team training as well. We know what Sancho's stance is. He thinks the manager is mistreating him. He thinks the manager is got inconsistencies and doesn't call other players out for these same breaches within training. Looking at this now, almost 2 weeks on from when it was first discussed, with what both player and manager have had to say, what's your take on the situation, mate?
I think I was very defensive of Ten Hag whenever you've asked me about this whole situation. I think today, like, I just feel like he didn't need to expand. He didn't need to explain any of this. Once again, I think he's just applying extra pressure on himself. As you said in the intro yourself, there's a little bit of a circus going on right now at Man United. And the last thing you need to do is add fuel to the fire. Last thing you need to know is add a couple of lions to the circus, add a couple of elephants to the circus. You don't need it. It's already a problem as is. I think right now he's in a position where he got 6 points out of 12 first 4 games. You're coming into a little bit of a tough run. You've got Brighton coming up. You've got Bayern Munich coming up, the Champions League as well. So I think right now was a time to just basically say, I will not answer any question regarding the situation or like whatever it is, that sort of generic statement, and just kind of keep it stepping. But I think he's probably just put a little bit more pressure on himself, in my honest opinion. And I think now this has created even more like division kind of in the United fan base, because there are people who have it out for Ten Hag to begin with, even without the whole Sancho thing. There are people, let's all cut the BS here. There are people who don't like Ten Hag, there's people who Ten Hag out, there's people who don't want this manager. So because people don't want Ten Hag, they will use this whole Sancho stick to beat him up with, therefore creating pressure. And I think from Ten Hag's perspective, I just wish from his own perspective, he had a bit more self-awareness and realized the position that he's in, because he's Manchester United manager, because of the results that have happened over the last 4 games. I think he should just basically evaded all questions, or just let it be, and went like, I'm not going to answer any questions about Sancho. I'll only answer questions about the Brighton game. Just basically said it in that sort of generic fashion. So for me, I just think he's applied extra pressure on himself. And from Sancho's perspective, look, we're not on the inside. We'll never know whether Sancho is a good trainer or a bad trainer, or he's had multiple offenses. I will not claim to know whether he's done that or not. But I would also think, and this is where I will defend Ten Hag, I don't think this is a thing in which like Sancho had one bad training session and then this whole thing happened. Like, I think he must have been a repeat offender in some way or somehow, unless like we're all basically claiming that Ten Hag would have some sort of agenda against Sancho. The logical thing from Sancho's perspective is he's been really upset the last 4 games, and you might understand why. Because he's played him false 9 all preseason long, and then the season starts and he's like, okay, where's my opportunity? Where's my chance? Where's my time to play? Because he's played Martial there, he's played Rashford there. So he's like, okay, at least I deserve an opportunity. So from that perspective, I'd be more understanding from where Sancho's coming from. Yeah. But I think this is a one-time thing. They must have had multiple conversations. They must have spoke. Maybe he's not meeting the standards. I do not know. I will not claim to know. But I think there is extra pressure now, and this whole Brighton game could just be an explosion, because I bet you, and you're someone who does match reactions, make sure you guys tune into the match reaction post United. There will be people who will come on here and they will use the Sancho thing if Man United draw or lose, and I bet my kidney that's gonna happen. It'll be the first statement some of them make, like, oh my god, you could have used Sancho in today's game. Pellistri played like crap. It's just,
Bro,
it's
you know what's interesting? I love your breakdown of that. I understand where you're coming from. I think the manager has put more pressure on himself, but I also understand why he has addressed it by simply stating there is standards, and people are misquoting his standards. They're saying, well, you lost 7-0 and didn't drop anybody for the next game. All the standards he's referring to, and this is where I think, this is when you know people are looking just to create problems. They're looking to hate on the manager for no reason. The manager hasn't mentioned standards in games, performances in games, goals in games. He has solely and specifically been speaking about training. So people keep using the things that have happened in games as counters to what he's been saying. But you're now comparing apples and oranges. You're comparing a different element. You know, there is what happens at training, there's what happens in games, and then there's what happens outside of football. And I think they're three different spheres, in that makes sense. They all feed into the same area, but they're different. And if you're going to say there's inconsistencies, you've got to compare training with training, games with games, and outside behavior with outside behavior. You can't compare the treatment of somebody that's been suspended like Greenwood versus someone that's had 5 bad games in the team. Go, well, why didn't you kick him out of the squad like Greenwood? Because the situation is very, very different. And I'm seeing a lot of people cross-referencing this. You're absolutely right, though. I think he has put more pressure upon himself without a shadow of a doubt. And it's actually made me really apprehensive, but also very excited about tomorrow's game. But you are right.
Depending on the outcome. Depending on the outcome. That's the major caveat.
I'm telling you now, the tweets are already saved. So I'll give you an example about Pellistri. It's going to go one of two ways. And I'm talking now about the people that don't like Ten Hag, whether it's because of the Sancho situation or prior. Pellistri does well. It will not be celebrated. It will be, see, the manager should have dropped Anthony ages ago and played him. This is what we would have got. So it will be spun in a negative way. Or if he does well, those same people that love Sancho might start to hate on Pellistri. That's one of those two outcomes is coming, or maybe you'll get a split. If he does badly, then you're spot on. It will be Sancho should have been here. And JJ called this out yesterday, and it's true. As much as I'm not happy with every element of the way the club has treated Sancho, I don't think we've had the right structure there for him since he arrived. I think we tried to improve it. I think some of the way the media has gone at Sancho has been wrong. Let's be very brutally honest here. Whether he starts or doesn't, he's been so poor overall for Man United. This notion that if we don't win tomorrow, Sancho would have been the game changer, I don't quite know the body of work that you've got to provide evidence of that. If you're going to say Rashford, well, you could provide all the goals that he scored, one of the highest amount of match-winning goals in Man United's history. You could provide some analysis that's truthful that would make a lot of sense. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Win, lose, or draw, I know exactly how they're going to spin the performance of certain players in the team, especially
and lose or draw, it's going to be worse.
Pellistri.
Lose or draw makes this reaction 100 times worse.
Have to win tomorrow. And I don't even think we can scrape it. We have to win, and I'm not talking possession. They might have more than us. We have to win, and we have to win well for this to die down a little bit. We absolutely have to. So it has to be, I wouldn't say a convincing win over Brighton, because that's hard to sometimes do, but it has to be by 2-goal margin. We have to win 2-0, 3-1, 4-2, whatever it may be. We have to win by a 2-goal margin, and there has to be a few good performances. We need Haaland. I'm talking from a Ten Hag point of view. Amrabat plays and does well. Højlund plays, scores, and performs well. Maybe not so much Pellistri. I think we want him to. If Antony was playing, there'd be pressure on him, because there's like Sancho's supporters really hating on Antony, like it's his fault that this has happened, which is really weird. But way to go. But yeah, United have to win.